Well, thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about a couple things. Obviously, No Rules Sandy came out a couple weeks ago. We are super excited to be playing a bunch of tracks from it. We're all kind of obsessed. And really, the first thing that comes to mind is the title. Because Amelia, I know Sandy's a nickname that you have for Nick. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first read No Rules Sandy, it made me think like this is something you were just a mantra you were just saying to him when you were recording the new album. I almost pictured like signs up around your recording studio. Where did the title come from? Was any of that even close?
It's pretty close actually, in that it's a backup line I wrote for the song Your Reality, which is like the centerpiece of the record. And when I wrote it, because of the nature of how we were writing, most of the vocal takes that are on it are the first time that both Nick and I ever heard the vocals in the air performed. So it was kind of a joke that I said that to him. And then when we were playing it for Jen Wasner, who's our dear friend and collaborator, she was like, "That's the name of the record. That's it." And we just couldn't let it go.
Yeah, we had a quote unquote cooler name for the record, and then she pointed that out, and it was like a truth we couldn't unsee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just so inherently the truth and like silly and real, and it was, there was no turning back. It was like, oh well, that's obviously it.
I love that. All right, so I wasn't sure if that part of the song came after, but that totally makes sense. So is it exciting to make a record that doesn't sound like any other record and like take all the rules of Sylvan Esso's first three records and not live by them? Or was it exhilarating?
It was really exhilarating. If anything, oddly, I feel like it's the closest to the first record
Yeah.
than we've gotten again. Like it feels like really it's just a return to, instead of like, I feel like the first chapter of the art project got done. Like we really figured out how to make a pop record in a very specific way. And like now we're back in the mush. Being like, what is band? How do we do it? And it's so fun.
Well, and it's fun to be doing that like 10 years removed from the first time we did it. So we each are obviously like completely different people than the people who wrote that first record. But it's so wild to be like back in that headspace and back in this zone of like just trying to impress each other in this fun way,
Yeah. The musicality of it just made me think of Made of Oak stuff. And I just got so excited thinking of you just in there being really like in the moment with all those sounds instead of like, are you a composer that way? Do you write down notes and things like that? Or do you just kind of do a lot of that stuff in the moment and create?
Not anymore. I was a composition major at UW Milwaukee, actually. So back then I did, but no, now it's way more free, and we kind of just jam together now. So now it's more like it's like kind of asking a set of questions like, oh, what would happen if I did this? And what is this going to sound like? And maybe what if we started with these sounds and then manipulated it in this way? And then you're kind of just continuing to like follow the thread and say yes. And it feels a little bit more like a process of discovery rather than like a process of dictation. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So when your lyrics then come along with that, Amelia, do you have them kind of fleshed out a little bit too? And then you go into that jam session mode and frame of like, or what was it called? Not frame of thought, consciousness, stream of consciousness.
Oh,
jazz. Do you get jazz with your lyrics when you're recording?
Do you get jazz?
Do you get jazz? Are you jazz?
Are you jazz?
Album, Are You Jazz?
Yeah. Whose jazz is this?
Whose jazz is this? No, really what it is like Nick and I in a room together, Sandy starts making some sounds and then I like listen to them, and whatever direction they push me in, that's where the lyrics begin. And then it becomes an interplay with either what he's doing or I get more involved in like what the potential story is that I could write.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's kind of, we're each trying to like put something out into the room that both of us can kind of grab onto and build on, and like trying to figure out, like trying to shape what the other's doing and also like react. It's kind of this like, tennis game kind of.
Yeah.
Was there a moment recording the new record where there was one of you surprised the other with a vibe or a sound, and that kind of went in a direction you didn't expect? And then what would be that song be on the record that you guys both like came out of nowhere with these ideas and you were like, because now I'm picturing you doing that back and forth in the studio. Is there a song that kind of encapsulates that the most on this record?
I mean, all of them kind of went through a process of that, you know, like I think like maybe Moving really feels that way to me. That was one that started in a completely different place, and we were just kind of throwing out ridiculous ideas of places to start. But then it just like it each time one of us pushed in a direction, it got closer. Amelia wrote that lyric over an admittedly very ridiculous beat
No, it was
that we then changed and
so
then
similar to like you made like 3 changes to that beat, and then it was where it was.
well, and then there was this moment of like, okay, this song is so about this freneticism. And then I just ran the entire thing through this like touch plate distortion box, and we ended up keeping that as the final mix.
It makes
the
it
thing I did like
incredibly
in the moment.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
made it incredibly hard to mix. But we wrote it in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, probably.
Wow. Well, that makes sense because the first time the album became available, I couldn't get off the first song. I kept rewinding it. I didn't want to see what was next yet because it is frenetic and it's this exciting thing that just made me feel like I do not know what's coming next on this album. Like we had an idea because we were playing some singles, but man, the energy of that first song really sets a tone that is like you're in for some fun stuff. Buckle up or lay down or whatever you want to do and just enjoy it. So I like that you started the album like that with that vibe.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, it felt so surprising and jarring that immediately it kind of felt like this has to be the first moment. You know, I kind of picture somebody like on their phone, like looking through, you know, horrible things and then photos of cats or whatever, and having this like really intense ADHD experience that we now all have. And then like being reminded that there's a new Sylvan Esso record and immediately doing, you know, clicking on that and then having this song that like to me encapsulates the internal monologue of that experience, like it usher them into this record feels like the only way it could have started.
Yeah, that's so translated for me. So I'm glad you did that. So beyond that and the songs, there's interludes on the album.
Yes.
Let's talk about interludes. I'm so fascinated by interludes in general. Like I first think about those in classic hip hop songs, interludes. How did you decide to use and why interludes on this album?
Normally, we think a lot about how much silence there is between each track. I think that the entrance is very important for how you hear something, which is why we pay so much attention also to the way our albums are sequenced. And with this one, because we knew that Moving was going to be the start, I really wanted there to be no silence on the record. And so like in thinking about that, we were like, okay, like how can we tie everything together? What do we do that feels both like a break, but also an expression? How do we make what it felt like to make this record be in between each track?
Yeah, that was kind of the first thing, like the idea of inviting the listener into the room with us. And so at first it was really that. It was like, oh, like some of these things started in a place that if you just hear the end product, you might not realize. So we wanted to kind of show something coming into being the way it felt when we were in the room together. And so like that lead into Echo Party, like that's the exact vocal loop Amelia made that I then turned into that backbone of that song. Or like that was we wanted these like little pieces of just like things that were happening that led to songs. And then that started feeling really good. And then we were like, well, how do we do that even more? And it was kind of like, what if we have all these like weird little voice memos that we've been recording and like, you know, like voicemails from friends, and just kind of the more we leaned into the audio ephemera of like this very short period of time, kind of the more intimate and welcoming the whole thing felt. You know, we wanted you to feel like you were in the world that we had made.
Yeah. It does feel like a little snapshot of the time we've been living in and what you guys have been going through for the last couple of years, for sure. Comforting and phonetic. And I like it when you make me dance and then I realize I'm dancing to like epically sad songs. You're so good at that.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about the recording. Rented a studio in LA for a couple weeks and went and recorded. Is that what you usually do? Or was there anything different about the recording process this time around?
Oh yeah, well actually what happened was we packed like a little baby studio in the back of our Prius in North Carolina and started driving on the first day of January to LA. But by the time we got to LA, we were going for like songwriting sessions and the Grammys were happening at the end of the month. So we were like, let's do a long road trip. Then we'll like write songs, hang out with people that we love, and then we'll go to the Grammys. But by the time we got to LA, the Omicron variant had spiked. So everything got canceled. We set up our little baby studio in this rental that we had and just started making it, which is why like all the vocal takes on the record are really dirty. You can like hear like leaf blowers and birds and like all sorts of Los Angeles
because
things.
it was not a studio.
Yeah, because we recorded it in not a studio.
Oh, not a studio at all.
I mean, yeah,
it was a living room. There was a nice,
very not soundproof.
yeah, I recorded all of my vocals sitting on a beautiful cow print chaise lawn.
Ooh, that you should probably bring something like that on tour and pull it out for a couple songs.
I've been thinking about asking the people that we rented from to sell me that chair.
I'm shocked you haven't tried to buy it yet, to be honest with you. You were so at home on that couch.
In the studio, it would be nice.
I mean, it would be very you.
Yeah.
Nice. That reminded me of, wait, there was one other question I want to ask you about recording. Let's see. Oh, well, we'll get back to that. So the first time you played the album, can we talk about the Newport Folk Festival?
Yes.
How was that, like a dream come true?
It was fun? Intense. Yeah, I mean, it was great, but we did 3 sets in 3 days and they were all wildly different.
Yeah, they
required a ton of prep. So like, to be totally honest, it was like massively stressful and massively rewarding. But like, you know, we did like the A's first full band set on Friday, which was like this whole experience. Then we were in the middle. We did 3 days of rehearsal in this church for the Psychic Hotline label band showcase on Saturday, which was this, you know, like 11-piece band that we put together that was like, you know, all of us playing, you know, kind of songs by our entire circle of friends and all people on our label. And then we debuted the whole new record on Sunday. So like looking back on it, like I feel like all of my mental images have like a cartoon like motion blur on them, you know?
Yeah. It was really fun to get to play it in front of so many people. That being said, the Newport audience is wonderful because they're just excited to hear whatever you have to play. 2, there are a lot of people who are wary of music that doesn't sound like folk music, even still. So it was really cool, but also it was amazing to play the record in front of a bunch of people who wouldn't normally seek it out as well.
It was extremely cool experience.
One of my favorite things about festivals is discovering bands that I wouldn't necessarily listen to, and then you see them live, and it's that different, deeper level of understanding I think you have for people's craft sometimes. But I get what you're saying about folk music. It's like kind of hardcore fans in a way. So your first couple days, they probably loved for sure. When you were putting these 3 different kinds of shows together for a festival, did anyone ever say, maybe you should rethink all this work you just committed yourself to, or you're just like, we're going for it?
I don't think anybody besides maybe our crew really considered how much work it was going to be until we got there.
Yeah, we have the bad like post-pandemic habit of just being like yes to everything. And also, I think the only person who was really flabbergasted by it was our engineer, Allie, who's worked at our studio for the whole pandemic and kind of got to Newport and was like, this is insane.
You're doing all of this?
Why are you doing this?
You should calm down.
Yeah, go to bed.
We're like, Allie's right.
Yeah. So we're trying to do that. But
consult with Allie first next time.
Weirdly, it's made going on a 7-week arena tour feel like vacation. So I'll say that.
Yeah, I saw her yesterday and she said, I'm surprised you're alive.
Yeah. And now, your next tour, opening up for ODESZA.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what you're talking about with your arena tour that's happening?
Yeah,
is that
we're talking to you backstage at Merriweather Post Pavilion right now. Like, we're literally on tour doing this whole
So, all right. I want to know how you guys hooked up with them. Their light shows are legendary. This tour is going to be legendary, right? Because it's supposedly their last one. I mean, minds are going to be blown all over the place. And your light shows are fun. Your visuals are fun with your shows, but is it like next level with ODESZA? And I guess how'd you guys connect in the first place?
We've known them for a few years. We played this festival called Laneway with them, which is kind of a traveling festival that goes around New Zealand and Singapore and Australia a few years ago. And have kind of always been like, hitting each other up for various things. And this was the first thing that really worked out with any length. Their show is insane. It's totally crazy. It feels like it's like Cirque du Soleil. Like it's like not, it's wild.
Yeah. Like, are you going to get their drum line to come out on a song at some point? Because that would be dope.
It would be dope. Their drum line, everyone who's in their drum line is so nice. Everyone on the crew.
It's been a great
It's like
experience.
it's a crew of over 100 people, and not one person has been rude. It's been
shocking.
Yeah, incredible.
That's cool. I mean, you surround yourself with good people. I'm guessing you're good people yourself, right?
Yeah.
Nice. So what, are you going to play a lot of new songs on the tour with ODESZA?
Yeah, we're playing like half and half.
Yeah.
It's not, we booked this before we decided to put out No Rules Sandy. So like it's not the No Rules Sandy tour, that's for sure.
It's really weird to put out a record that's like really vulnerable and strange and like really about your feelings, and then go immediately into the first time you've opened a show in like 8 years.
Yeah,
and like
it's a wild
trying to be like, hey guys, like how about this little toe tapper? So it's been kind of a cool experience of like trying to figure out how to present this stuff in a way that will make sense to somebody who has no idea who we are and like has no context. It kind of feels like, I've said this before, but it kind of feels like we're like back in the gym. It's like we're a thing that we used to be so good at was opening shows and having like a really tight 30 or 45 minute set. And we haven't had to do it in so long. And so now getting back to that as we put out this really kind of fragile, strange bird of an album is like a really cool duality to be fighting with.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare yourself for the reaction of fans then that don't have that context, that aren't there just to see Sylvan Esso? Do you have to, or you just go out there and do the same thing, give it your all every night? Like, what is the routine to mentally prepare for not having your own show now and being an opener again?
For me, adjusting to not being the host of the is different. Also, like, you just kind of have to go out there and dom the crowd and be like, listen to me, which people really like.
Yeah, part like grade school teacher.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a different skill set. I think there's like when we go play our own shows, like we are lucky enough to have this amazing fan base who like really gets what we're trying to say and is there for every step of it. So like that makes certain things easier and gives you a lot of leeway to take different kinds of chances. And I think that's its own skill set. Making something rewarding for that crowd has been a thing we've been really working on. And now it's fun to go back and like sharpen the other side of the sword again and like get back to the like, how do you show somebody what you are in a very short amount of time in a way that makes them feel welcome and seen and interested?
What's the difference in the energy you get from crowds when they're there and just silent and listening and like intently listening and watching everything you do, to a crowd of people that are just singing at the top of their lungs to everything? Is there a preference that you have? There's, I mean, moments probably within the show that you'd love people to just sing with you and dance with you.
I don't know. I don't know if there's like a through line there. Each crowd feels so different.
Exactly. It's nice. Either both of those situations are people absorbing and listening, which is the best. So like any way that
those are actually closer to each other than they sound. Like the opposite is like somebody not like talking different and talking,
waving their cell phone with their flashlight on to get their friends to come over.
It's like there's
like stuff like that.
Then do you focus right on that person and try to sing right to them? Or do you just, there's got to be like, after 10 years of touring, you probably have developed a lot of little tricks to just not be distracted by stuff like that.
Not be distracted by stuff like that, but also like we're the opener on this tour, and we are not owed anything.
Yeah.
And we are like so like honestly, like we're here to like make fans, but if someone's busy or doing something, like I'm not gonna get upset or need
Mhm.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
need more. Like if I was, then I would be heartbroken all the time.
Yeah.
And also like there is a joy in surrendering to the fact that like, you know, you can be like singing about your feelings all the time and other people are just living their lives around you.
Mm-hmm.
That's part
Man.
of the vibe.
So there will be a No Rules Sandy tour sometime in 2023.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We never stop touring.
Yeah.
We're always
Okay.
on the road.
Good. Will any of it include Coachella? You probably can't tell me, but that's my favorite
Cannot
festival.
tell
So.
you.
I
Yeah,
can't tell you.
All right.
Sorry.
And I guess we'll wrap it up here with my last question. Individually, I'd like you to answer. So I don't think I've ever gotten to ask you. We'll start with you, Amelia Meath. What did your childhood smell like?
Ooh. Chicken stock and crayons and fresh rollerblades.
Nice. Chicken stock, like homemade family recipe situation. Yum. What did your childhood smell like, Nick Sanborn?
You know, I'm not sure, but the one smell from my childhood that is really coming back to me right now is remembering that my grandma Betty's house smelled like this one extremely specific perfume that I didn't recognize as her perfume until after she had passed, and I found it in her house. It was Obsession.
It's called
Ooh.
Obsession.
Yeah, I think it was an Elizabeth
Calvin Klein.
Calvin, is that what?
Oh,
I can't.
wait. Obsession's such a classic, though. But I bet you if you smell it on somebody walking by, you're gonna be like,
Every
"Hey,
once in a
Betty."
while now, I will like an older woman will pass me and be wearing it, and I'll be like, everybody, yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you for your time. Sylvan Esso, the closest you guys are getting on this tour with ODESZA is 2 sold out nights, I think, in Chicago.
Woo!
Woo woo. We'll see you. I'll be in the audience dancing somewhere.
Yay.
I'll send my good vibe energy up your way.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And
thanks
when
for having us back. We love 88.
Yeah, we love y'all.
We love you too. We'll see you hopefully around Milwaukee for No Rules Sandy tour, or at least as you're passing through.
Oh, we're always coming through. Maybe sooner than you think.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Great.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.